Sorry for all my Facebook people. Oh, I didn't go live there either. Well, it says I'm not live. I thought I went live. What do you start this whole thing again? This whole thing again. I thought it was live on both of them. All right. Hey, welcome. I'm late. I'm live. I gotta check some things here. Let me go over here. I'm checking. Welcome to VOTech Simplified. And today has not been simple for me. Okay, I gotta check this other screen over here to go, what the heck is going on? And so bottom line is this. Today has been a fantastic, today we're talking about backups. Today we're talking about systems. Today we're talking about making sure that when all heck breaks loose, or it seems like it, a lot of times it's not. Most time things are not as bad as they appear, and how not to panic, things you can do. And so we're live on this one. I'm going to make sure we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. And the funniest thing, I already thought we were live. I've had such an intense day. From the moment I walked in, excuse me, I went to log into Facebook this morning and nothing worked. Now, that's fine under most circumstances. I mean, first thing, I could live without that. But then the guest that was on our show today, the Heller Baarns Ask Me Anything show, I had communicated with him via Facebook. And I also had his email address. I had his link. I had some backups to that. And it's one of the things we'll talk about today. And because I had those, it actually worked. Well, it didn't work, but it gave me some back channels and some other things. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we're going to talk today about backups, systems, things you want to do. I need to promote. I don't need to promote. This is for you. I have a new course that's coming up this weekend. I'm doing. It's just kind of timely. I came in and couldn't get on Facebook, and I'll talk about that in a minute and what happened and how it worked. I have a webinar coming up this weekend called Never Lose VO Files Again, because I get this phone call. Oh, I get it once a week at least. I work with thousands of people, so I do get it occasionally. And some weeks I'll get half a dozen people contacting me about they can't find something. And so I put together a webinar called Never Lose VO Files Again. And this one is, we're trying something new. This is called Pay What You Want. So you can put $1 in there. You could put $500 in there. We're essentially saying anybody who wants to attend, if they want to attend for practically free, I mean, I'd like to think the thing we're worth $10 or something, but if you want to put $1 in there, throw $1 in there. If you have the means and you like us and want to support the channel and all, throw $500. Whatever. You get to pick. We don't know how this will work. We've never done it before. We are doing it. So there's a seminar this Sunday, and what you can do here is go to, I think we have vojumpstart.com. I'm going to zoom in on that. And when I zoom in on that, I think it's never lose. There it is right there. So vojumpstart.com/never lose, all one word, and then it'll redirect you to the whole the actual address there. So bottom line, hey, pay what you want, okay? It's right down there. You can put your desired amount. You can $1, $500, $2,000. I mean, hey, life's short. Waste it all. Whatever. If you're really strapped, pay $1. I would hope we're worth $10, okay? But whatever, we're putting it out there. There's the actual bottom amount that somebody can pay is $1. So don't tell me, hey, I don't have the revenue to do it. That we wanted to make sure that this takes care of some things I see over and over and over again with people losing files, and their fundamentals are not strong enough yet. And we're going to remedy that this weekend. So you can pay for it. After it's done, we'll probably charge. I don't think after it's recorded, we'll probably say, hey, it's $10, $20, $400. I don't know. We'll probably pick something on that. But for now, it's pay what you want. Recommend you do that. See you this Sunday. All right, end of that thing. But do it, okay? I mean, you're the one benefiting. If you don't think it's worth it, put $1. But I promise you, it's worth more than that. All right. So today, Facebook went out on me. The first thing I come in and there was no Facebook, and it was not ideal, and I looked like my account was hacked. So what happens if your account gets hacked? Are your passwords up to date? Have you changed your password over the last 6 months to a year? If you haven't, you should. Okay, that's just the best practice. You want to do that. Get your passwords in order. I use a system. Okay, I use a system. Now, do you have to use my system? No. Not at all. You do not need to use my system. Do you need a system? Yes. You're either going to make up your own system like I have, or you're going to use a password manager. And I have this little 3-part formula that I use for all my passwords. You can do some variation on it. Don't take mine as the only way. But what I start with is I have a base that comes from something related to my family's history that, I don't know. I don't want to say nobody would know. I don't think anyone would guess that we're using it, that I'm using it the way I use it. And that's the first 6 characters of my passwords. And every password has this part of it or part of it up front. And then I add some characters from the site that I'm going to. So, for example, if it's Facebook, I might take the first 3 characters of the site name, or the second 3 characters, like the 3 characters starting with the second character, because see, that makes it kind of weird. Like if let's pretend I was creating a Facebook password. I'd have my little base, and then instead of Facebook, I would have ACE, which doesn't, for most people, they wouldn't put together that would be part of the password. And then I have a date component. You either could use the month, you could use the year, you can use a 2-digit year, you could use a 4-digit year, you pick. And what I'm saying is you create a system that you can remember. You might write it down the first time. I have 6 letters that I'm going to always start with, but they should be something that's obscure, not like password. Don't do that. But have something that comes from your family history is what I recommend. Or your kid. Don't use your kids' names. If you're going to use your kids' names, lop off the first 2 characters of their name. So, hey, instead of putting Don, it would be On, which would not be something that most people would guess. And I don't have or it'd be Anna, ONA for Donald. It'd be in there, pick, and you could pick start with the 3rd character. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you have a system, okay? And then when you've done that, then add some other components to it and build your own. And then what happens for me is this. If I'm away from my computer, I have a place where I have all my passwords stored, but I can guess my password usually within 3 tries, almost any place I am with my eyes closed, because I have a system. You don't have to have the same system, but have a system. Okay. So I just want to give you an idea that, hey, you can be creative about it. You can take your middle name but you don't necessarily need to start with the first character of your middle name. Start with the 3rd character, start with the 2nd character. Take your initials and have your initials be upside down or backwards. Okay. Upside down would really be good. That I recommend all the time. But have a system. And do not use all the same password on every site. What I do want is if someone breaks into my bank, figures out my password for the bank, I don't want to then turn around and give them the password for every other bank. But my passwords are all unique among all my banking and, checking accounts and PayPal and all these things. They're all different. So if somebody gets a hold of one of them, I want to limit the damage there. And then today I go on first thing. So it kind of ruined my morning because I had a bunch of things planned that I didn't even advertise this today. Like normally I set all that up and it would have all gone on automated. But I came in and I couldn't log into Facebook, and I thought it was me. I thought I thought I'd been hacked, and I hadn't been hacked directly. But it really was not ideal. But it was what it was. And we have a new feature. By the way, you can do super chats. If you're watching this on YouTube, this just came in recently. You can do super chats. What does that mean? You don't have to do this. And no one's ever done it yet. You can send us $10, or you can send me $400. You can send something. If I see it, by the way, I will talk about it. Okay, it's brand new. The channel's big enough now to start doing some of the monetization. Yeah, I'll learn to talk, and that's happening. So I had the password. I came in this morning. I went in. It's like Facebook isn't working now. I did not realize at that moment that it was happening worldwide and that it was a problem for a lot of people. I just thought it was me. Okay, so that's how it was, and that's what I went with, and it's kind of life, that it's not working. So what? So bottom line, I didn't know. It's working now, but I spent a lot of time because what I tried to do was reset my password, and I have two-factor authentication on everything. So if you don't know about two-factor authentication, what it says is every time the password gets changed, send a message either to my phone or there's an authentication application. So there are ways to have a backup where every time my password is changed, it sends a message to my phone. Now, the odds of a hacker having both figured out my passwords and figured out my phone and intercept the phone message coming in, we'll just say it's pretty low. I don't want to say zero, but it is pretty low. And so at this point, I don't have to worry about that. It did not happen. And so because it didn't happen, I don't care. I mean, I did care. It kind of ruined my morning in a sense. It took away all the things that I had scheduled. And then I also could not communicate with the guests that I had for the Heller Baarns Ask Us Anything because he was expecting me to send something on Facebook, and we had communicated before the weekend, and then he had a problem today, so I ended up doing that show solo. And, now let's talk about your audio. Do you have a backup system in place when something goes wrong? Not if, when something goes wrong. All right. Now, if you're using one of the more advanced DAWs, they almost all have something like this where I can go behind the scenes. I'm going to save this guy right now. And so you don't, you're not, if you're not using Studio One, that's fine. But when you look at most of the more advanced DAWs, one of the things they have is something that nobody appreciates until something goes wrong. And that's where this one's keeping autosaves. And what does that mean? It means that a couple months ago when I was working in the same file, every few minutes, if I didn't save it, it had my back. Okay. So as I'm sitting here yapping to you, it's saving some things in the background and making sure that I have the ability to go back. This is just a function of the more advanced DAWs, but everyone should have it. And if yours does not have an autosave, all right, many of us are I used Audacity at the beginning 10 years ago, but I used Audacity, and it does not have an autosave built in. So you had better be doing saves at different intervals, and you're keeping some sort of copies of things because stuff goes wrong. One of the other things the more advanced ones have is they allow you to save a version at a specific point. And so when that happens, I can write in a name and I can save a snapshot of right now, and I could give it something descriptive, which just says, hey, demo and today's date, and before something. I use the letters B and 4 right after each other, so I guess I should show that. It'd be before fun change, all right? And I will have that, and because I have something like that, then what will happen is I can come back to this exact point that I am now, and I choose OK. And later, when I go in, and I'll do this and look and make sure I have this file, restore version. That version that I have right now is sitting there waiting for me. So it's doing automatic saves and allows me to save a version that will be available for future use. And this is what you have to simulate in your DAW because something will go wrong at some point. And you need to be prepared for it. And if you're not, someday you'll remember this conversation and you'll be like, hey, listen, by the way, there's only one reason I do any of this stuff is because I messed it up in the past. And many of us, unfortunately, will wait until something goes wrong. And then after that, we get our backups in place. I've lost hard drives. I've paid almost $1,000 one time to have a drive that was, minuscule by today's standards. I was probably 200 megabytes in the day that it failed. But it had some data on it that I didn't have backed up anyplace, and I had to pay a data recovery service, and I spent about $1,000 to get that thing back. And at that time, it was worth $1,000 to me. But a lot of times it'd be like, oh, I just lost all that stuff. So don't be like Don, okay? Or be better than me. Don't wait until something goes catastrophically wrong. These programs are non-destructive, the better ones. So because they're non-destructive behind the scenes, they're saving things. And have a DAW that's non-destructive, not because listen, most days I don't need that stuff. Most days I don't need AAA either. I might run a year without needing AAA, but boy, if it's rainy and cold and I happen to get a flat, which is one of those random life events if you drive around a lot or even moderately, then having AAA means, okay, hey, somebody else gets to change the tire in the middle of the bad weather. The better DAWs are doing some things to save your back, and the way they store files in the background, the way they have auto saves working for you. It's just a great tool and will save you so much time and effort. But if you don't have one, then you are responsible for creating your own, which means, yes, you're going to have your raw. Yes, you're going to keep a copy and export a copy of total raw. You're going to keep and export a copy of after I've applied all my effects. You're going to keep a copy of after I've applied the effects in RX. And then you're going to keep a copy what I sent to my client. And you're going to have and many people have folder systems and they've managed this. People did it before there were autosaves and the easy automated tools. I will say, since the tools are under $100 and they really take a lot less time to learn than many people believe, that once you get with one of the better DAWs, you don't worry about any of that stuff, and you don't need to. I mean, our job is to be narrators, voiceover artists, not to worry about our backups. But you do want to be thinking about them. And then we have the secondary backups of those are just saving this here in one location. Then you need to have, do you have an external drive that you back up to? That's the minimum. And if you don't, work toward that and put it on a calendar that, all right, today it's March 5th. By pick your date, March, April. And then I'll have to learn how the months work in things. January, February, March, April. You pick a date. By April 1st, I'll have my backup drive. And good quality, super backup drives. You could get them for $100 because you do not need the ultra fast drives, and you don't need huge amounts of space, but it is nice to have large amounts of space. And if you get one of the old spinny drives, Western Digital, my favorite Western Digital black drives for that kind of thing, they are fabulous and they are not very expensive. So if you need, I'll try to put that in the notes and make sure that's working. So bottom line, they're a good, have a drive and then go to cloud as your backup. And that's fine, but I like having stuff on my own drives. And there is some minor danger if my office burns down, then I'm not going to have it. But have something. Okay, you don't have to have what I suggest, but have something, and that's what's absolutely recommended, is that you absolutely have something. Okay. So your DAW should be doing it for you. That's mindless. I don't have to think about anything related to recording. When you go to RX or anything else, RX is a destructive editor. And so because of RX being a destructive editor, there are two scenarios that come up. I've exported from my DAW a track. And since I've exported that track, if I ever needed it back so if I process this, and I'm almost always doing batch processes, and I'm doing things, but if I did something and I mess it up, I can always go and export again. So if I can export again and get it, then it's a calculated risk. My fallback is I would have to redo whatever processing I did. And if I'm going to do a lot of processing, or I can't get the original, then I'll make a copy before I start. If I know that, all right, I can export again from my raw track, I may not. I don't actually. But so it's context specific. I don't need a backup for everything, but I need a backup for all the things that can become a problem. And then I might, if I knew, if it's a long file, all right, if I'm doing a 40-minute file, that's different than if I'm doing a voiceover that's 1 minute or 5 minutes or something like that. If I'm going to put significant effort into a file, then I'm going to create a copy first, and then work on the copy. And then when it's done, I will use that. And I highly recommend you get used to that, because if you don't, you'll have the same experience I did. I didn't, now I do. And there's a reason for it, because Don is one of the lazier guys you're going to meet. Every once in a while, I'll get someone that says, well, hey, you do this extra step in here. I bet I could shortcut that by doing this other way. It's like, yeah, you can. Go for it. And if they ask me, I will explain to them, why in the world do you do that extra step? It's simply because I've done enough over enough years that something will reoccur once every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, but it does reoccur. I don't do things because of the one-off usually. I do it because of recurring issues. And because it comes up enough, I go, wow, I have to defend against that because I burned time, ridiculous amounts of time, that I'm going to protect against it. And because of that, I do a bunch of things that other people don't do. And at first, the new people, they'll always give me a, well, hey, couldn't I just do it this way? And yep, you can. There's no one path to excellence. There's multiple paths. But I do things for a reason. And if you're ever working with something that I mentioned, do it this way, and you go, I could do it another way, I absolutely acknowledge there's more than one path. But I absolutely acknowledge I'm not doing extra work unless it's going to pay me back. So I'm doing things that pay me back. So if you don't know, follow what I've been doing for a while. And then if you want to modify it after you've been doing this a year, man, have at it. Go ahead. I could do some of these things differently. But over the years, I figured out, yep, that pays me back just enough that it's worth doing an extra baby step in here, a drag here, a drop there. And there are reasons for it. And not everyone, sometimes they don't know the reasons, but they will. You do enough, stuff happens. All right, let me look for comments or see if there's anything that's come up here that I need to address here. And so far, I don't see any. Okay, so I see the chat there. So if you can, throw something in the chat. Let me know you're around. Let me know what's happening. Just let me know if I can assist with anything for today. It's been such an interesting day. Facebook, how often does Facebook go down? I spent crazy amounts of time trying to get it to work. Oh, I should mention, luckily I had Facebook Messenger on my phone, and that helped me a little bit because I was able to communicate with my son and then he was the one that told me, no, it's not, it's not just you this time. Because I was thinking I had been hacked, but it wouldn't, and I couldn't get it to reset my password. I thought, man, I was doing a bunch of cross-checking things, looking to make sure I was doing it right, and I ultimately was doing it right, and it ultimately did work, and I want to get this back up again. So be sure this next Sunday, we're going to do this Never Lose VO Files again, and we're doing something we've never done before, this Pay What You Want. So $1, $500, you pick the amount in between there. I do feel I kind of mentioned that had someone pay $1, and I thought, yeah, okay. I mean, hey, I do a bunch of stuff for free, and if that's what they think it's worth, okay. And listen, I've been a musician. You want to talk about being broke at different points in your life? Be a musician when you're a young guy, and that's that. There's the easy bucket method of not earning money. And especially back in the day, I look at all these, I look at the young musicians with envy because of YouTube, and they can build an audience and do stuff without touring and having the investment of traveling all over that we did in both time, money. Yeah. Anyway, I love what my younger friends get to do. I think that it's fantastic that it's easier now to do. We could have never sat at home and done voiceover 20 years ago. It just didn't exist. So we have it great. But some days are going to be better than others, and things will go wrong. So be sure you have backups in place. Be sure you have two-factor authentication that is absolutely working. You can die from exposure. Yes. Yes, you can, Larry. But I do appreciate your comment. It's nice to have somebody commenting. Okay. And the thing is, well, we're very exposed in this business where we have passwords that are too easy to guess. We don't change them often enough, and we don't have systems in place to deal with backups and when something goes south. So, I mean, I also have backup computers. I recommend backup drives, bigger subject than today. But one of the first things to do is be sure two-factor authentication, which I consider a pain. All right, because I change my passwords often enough and that kind of thing. And if you want to log in, yes, you have to not only just log in, now you have to go ahead and, in addition, you have to go ahead and do the whole thing where you get a message on your phone. But it's absolutely worth doing, and it pays you back. Okay, so that's the only reason I do it. It pays us back. And so it's a pain on one hand, because in the old days, hey, I didn't lock the doors at home when I was a kid. Nobody did that. Today, we lock every place. Today, we are always making sure that the car is locked when we go into the grocery store. We're always making sure the house is locked when we leave. We have security lights around. We have a dog. We have backups to our backups. Our dog, yeah. Anyway, you have multi-layers and have the basics covered. And I guarantee you, if you have not lost data or lost files, you will. And if you have a system where one of the more advanced things, then it can do a bunch of the work for you. But if you don't have one of those, then please be sure to do the extra work every single file, because it will pay you back. And if you don't do it later, you will pay for it. So, Stephen, yes, looking forward to seeing you Sunday. Funny how we immediately thought of Facebook things was our fault. Oh, absolutely, I thought it was my fault. And I thought I had been hacked, but I kept looking at it, and it was amazing how much time I wasted. It took me over an hour to figure out, since I thought it was my fault, or not my fault, I thought someone had hacked me, and because I thought someone had hacked me, I was trying to reset my password, and it was failing. And I just assumed it was something on my end until I talked to my son. And the strangest thing was Facebook Messenger. I had downloaded the app, actually still was able to log me in at first, and I communicated with my son, and then he said he was the one that pointed out to me, you aren't the only one. And then after that, my phone, it died on my phone, because even while I was using it on my phone, one point it said, hey, you need to log in again. Well, part of that was I was changing the password, or I was trying to change the password behind the scenes, and it was failing. It wasn't sending me messages, all sorts of fun stuff. All right, so did I panic? I had a minute of going, uh-oh, shoot, this is really not going to be a good day. But mostly I was trying to just be procedural about it, because it wouldn't help no matter how much I panic about it. If it was going to go south, it was going south, and I was just going to have to deal with it. So join me this weekend. This is Sunday. There is going to be a replay that's included with this. I don't know whether we will ever do this pay what you want again. That is to be determined. But right now we are doing pay what you want. And so, I will recommend you do it. Okay. We're going to talk about file systems. We're going to talk about safety. We're going to talk about some things you can do to make your life better, and directed specifically at people who have not spent much time with the computer. One of the things that I am less likely to let people get away with is the thing that we all say to begin with, which is, I'm not technical. Yes, I know you're not technical, and you don't need to be highly technical, but you do need to be technical enough. I mean, you learned how to drive a car. I wasn't a great driver nobody is. You learn how to drive it because it has some great payback for you. And it'd be the same with everything else. If you're going to learn to play basketball, pickleball, whatever fitness, yoga, who's good at yoga to begin with? Almost, unless you start very young, almost nobody. But if you started as an adult like I did when I took some classes in my 40s, man, I was the worst in the room, and that's life. And then if you stick it out, you get good at it. But I didn't go into every class that I did that was unrelated that was a fitness class and say, wow, I'll never be able to do this. I'm not a fitness person. Well, no, I wasn't, but I became one, and you can too. So join us for that, and be sure to send me questions, comments. And Larry says, somehow it passed by me. The reality is that I don't think it was everybody in the world, but it was worldwide, in that if you were in different, if you want to know the real truth, usually it's that the database has like I'm in the B's because of my last name, or depending on what your login is. A lot of times those things, they have servers that are just dedicated to handling all the A's and B's and C's, and they divide it up somehow. Alphabetical is very often one of the ways they do it, or it's by region. So it's going to be a regional thing, and if you were in the wrong alphabet and region at the same time, yep, you were totally shut out like I was. And yet you could have been right next to me and been in the same region, but if your last name was Zebra, then it totally worked. Because a lot of times that's how those authentication servers work. They're segregated to make, and they're yeah, it just occurred to me. They're doing the same thing. Larry didn't get affected because they didn't have all their eggs in one basket, so that yes, it went down worldwide for a subset of people, but another set of people never saw it, don't even know it exists, will read in the paper the same thing as, hey, I heard there was a snowstorm in a certain part of California or in Nevada. And I'm here in Southern California. We did not get any of that snow. So yes, it occurred. I read about it, but it didn't affect me. And that's the same with their outage. But yep, that's because they have systems that are segregated, and it's cut up into all these little slivers. And it's possible that Donnie Baarns, because he's in Florida, never even knew it existed, other than he saw some things going on. And him and I were able to communicate, at least in the beginning, and then I lost him. All right. So Larry, great comment there. Luck of the draw. Yep. Oh, yeah, you find it. Okay. So somebody else, Larry's saying that his fiance had the problem, and I did have the problem, and I don't know if my wife had the problem, but I had the problem. And I think they targeted me individually, by the way. Most people, it was just like, hey, get Baarns. I mean, that was their feel on the whole thing. Get Don. He deserves it. Good lesson, though. Reminded me. And I wasn't planning on talking about backups and all this stuff today, but I just decided, no, we talking tech stuff. This is a thing, and I directly was bitten by it today. And you know, life can be interesting. And mostly I was pretty calm. But it wouldn't have helped if I wasn't. It wouldn't have helped if I was, in a sense. I mean, I was pretty methodical about it, but why? I've been through it before. I've made more mistakes than most people. I've had more things fail. I've had computers, drives, monitors. So much fails, but I've also had things fail on my car. I had a tie rod fail. The ball joint actually failed on one of my cars at one point, and I was on the freeway, and front tire locked up, turned sideways, and I luckily was able to get off the road. And when it happened, where it happened, it all worked out and got it replaced. Kept on going. Anyway, hope you guys don't have no one wants all these problems, but I guarantee if you stay in this business, you'll have some. So have some systems in place to deal with it. All right. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next week. If you have topics or specifics, let me know. Hope to see you this next Sunday. Have a fantastic one, and of course, as always, we'll see you on the wires. Bye-bye.